in our previous episode when we were discussing the GOAT of MMA, and DJ was well up there in the mix, and we spoke about a potential pound-for-pound Grand Prix, a theoretical, hypothetical tournament between John Jones, Demetrious Johnson, Anderson Silva, and Georges St. Pierre, pound for pound. So if they were all at the same weight, same kind of frame and size, from a martial arts skill level, who would come out on top? And I think you both said Mighty Mouse.
Let's just say that didn't age well. First of all, but how many fights has John Jones gone through in the UFC now?
John Jones his record is 26-1. I think he had 3 or 4 fights outside of the UFC before.
Okay.
So I think he's 20 plus.
Okay.
Well, what's your point?
No, I was just wondering, like, if he gets to 34-1, then still contestable. then
I mean,
it still stands.
That comes down to that point where just because you've got a loss, does that make you less of a GOAT? Yeah, you had a bad day. I mean, it was a really good uppercut, but does that make that person a GOAT? Does that make Moraes? Okay, to be fair, Moraes has been dominating ONE Championship while DJ was dominating UFC. So, I mean, let's not downplay Moraes's and he's had a lot more to deal with. There's a shitload more competition in ONE Championship compared to UFC.
Let me flip the script for you. If you are unbeaten, does that improve your argument for being a GOAT?
It would have to. It would have to. I mean, if we're
but looking... then by virtue of that fact, is the opposite not also true?
Yeah, but I mean, it's probably the biggest factor, but it's not the only factor.
Why are you trying to sell us a junkie? What's going on here, Jay?
Dude, you give me whiplash. I blanked out for a second.
Listen, I do love Jones as a fighter. There's just too much around his name that is very negative to make him the GOAT.
Okay, but
once again, if he knocks out Ngannou, it's very difficult to argue the fact that he is a GOAT.
Let me bring us back on track here.
Yeah.
Does your prediction stand? Do you still think Demetrious Johnson beats John Jones in a pound-for-pound theoretical matchup?
Pound for pound, if I had to go from Demetrious Johnson to anyone, I would go to GSP.
But didn't you also say in the previous episode that you thought Demetrious Johnson, you stated GSP as your GOAT, but in our hypothetical pound-for-pound matchup Grand Prix tournament, pretty sure that you said DJ would come out on top.
I did. Yeah, I did. But now, to your point, the loss does matter in this case because they're both awesome guys. They both have got really good records. But GSP's he's different. He's I don't know. I think in this case, because of the loss in the second round to a relatively routine uppercut during a sort of a scramble type, because it was essentially a flurry. They were both going for each other and missing like 3 or 4 punches before the uppercut came in when I think DJ was actually going in for a takedown or something, or he was just sort of low down. Yeah, it was a pretty routine sort of uppercut in the second round. He caught him wanting, essentially.
Yeah,
GSP hasn't been caught wanting.
Who wins the Grand Prix?
I'd say GSP.
Craig?
I'm a GSP fanboy, right?
Yeah, but I still think DJ. I think he's the most technically gifted fighter out of that list.
He's very good. The way that he switches between stances, I mean, he's controlling that fight. Moraes, you kept pushing Moraes to the fence, and Moraes was doing a really good job of circling out constantly. But he was controlling that. He was controlling the center of that octagon. Essentially, Moraes was on the back foot the whole fight, most of the fight. There wasn't much of a fight, but most of that first round.